All right. To finish up this chapter, I want to go through certain key things. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about the. Here's where I skipped over this part on the last thing. So let me go over certain key ones. I'm not going to go over all of them. And of course, you're only responsible for ones that actually do go over. Okay. So you definitely have to know acetylcholine. Okay. And you definitely have to understand that there's not just one receptor for acetylcholine. There are two separate receptors for acetylcholine. Okay. So the acetylcholine responds, the receptor is the cholinergic receptor. Okay, so there are two types of cholinergic receptors. One is nicotinic. Okay, the other one is muscarinic. Okay, nicotinic receptors respond to nicotine. Okay, so these both respond to acetylcholine. Okay, nicotinic receptors also respond to nicotine. Okay, muscarinic receptors respond to muscarine. Okay, so nicotine, I'm sure everybody knows what that is. Muscarinic receptors respond to muscarine. Muscarine is actually a poison. Okay, that comes from mushrooms. Okay. Okay. So nicotinic receptors are found on skeletal muscles, the autonomic neurons. So, okay, CNS, and the agonist is nicotine. So, one of the things that nicotine does is stimulate the autonomic nervous system. Okay, and the CNS. Okay, which is why it makes you more awake, right? Which is the whole one of the key like effects of nicotine. Okay. Okay. So it also affects skeletal muscle contractions and stuff. Okay. And so this is why the antagonists are curare and alpha bungarotoxin. Curare is a poison that's made by, hold on, let me look that up really quickly. Okay, sorry. Okay, I was just making sure. Curare is actually one of the more poisonous stuff. It's actually comes from the poison dart frogs. Okay, and they use poison dart frogs no poison darts, and alpha bungarotoxin, which is the snake venom from a really poisonous snake in Taiwan, I believe. Okay, it binds to the nicotinic receptors in muscle really well. I actually used it before, like so we had a version of the toxin that binds to muscle, but therefore it makes, and it's attached to GFP, so it makes muscle glow. It freaked me out to use it because I knew that stuff was poison, and it was one of the strongest poisons known to man, and it binds very tightly to nicotinic receptor, which is a muscle. So like if I get it in my body, I can die. But yeah, it was pretty cool. So the way it works, okay, is an antagonist. So it prevents muscle contractions from happening. And it prevents muscle contractions from happening, okay, it stimulates, it causes muscle relaxation, which means your muscles can't work, you can't breathe. Okay. All right. The muscarinic receptors. Muscarine is a poison. Okay. That works by stimulating your. It works on smooth and skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle. Okay, but the activation of it, okay, is going to be parasympathetic. So activation of it is slowing down the heart. Okay, so muscarine will slow down the heart and the breathing rate, and it can cause that way. Okay, atropine is antagonist, and because it's antagonist, it blocks your parasympathetic, and therefore it stimulates your sympathetic, and therefore it gets a stronger heart rate. So you can see like people like getting atropine to speed up their heart rate or increase the heart, how hard the heart pumps. Okay. Okay. The other receptor you guys have to understand is the norepinephrine and epinephrine receptors. Okay, they together they call adrenaline. So adrenergic receptors. Okay, adrenergic receptors and are going to respond. This is going to be on stimulating the sympathetic response. So blocking the sympathetic response will stimulate the parasympathetic response. Okay. So for example, beta blockers. Okay. Beta blockers block the beta receptors from working, which prevents your blood vessels from dilating, which then lowers blood pressure. Okay. Okay, so and we'll go over this more again, but alpha receptors are found in certain places. So alpha receptors cause constriction of certain blood vessels. So you block alpha, it'll block the constriction of those blood vessels, which will decrease blood pressure. Okay, beta blockers. Okay, beta receptors cause increase in heart contraction, okay, force and rate. Okay, so beta blockers slow down the heart rate, okay, and the force and contraction, which again you're getting the same thing, right? Which is more relaxation with alpha blockers and beta blockers. Okay, all right. Dopamine, serotonin, and histamine you can skip. But again, you can see what the effects are really. And the antipsychotic drugs and LSD and all this other stuff, these drugs are all working with neurotransmitters, releasing. Okay. This page you can skip. Okay. Adenosine, nitric oxide, you can skip. Acetylcholine, I went over. So you definitely have to understand acetylcholine. Okay. Okay. Neurotransmitter release. Okay. Coding of the strength of stimulus. Okay. So the strength of a stimulus is caused by how big the gradient potential is. The bigger the gradient potential, the more it crosses the threshold, the more neurotransmitter release, the more action potentials, and therefore the more neurotransmitter release. Okay, on the other end. Okay. All right. So the way these things work really is one neuron can activate multiple things, okay? And this is a divergent pathway, okay? So one neuron wants to turn on multiple things all at once. A convergent pathway is the opposite. Many different effects cause one stimulus. Like there are many ways to scare you, and there are many different ways to be scared, but there's only one response to be scared. Okay. Okay. So this is what neurons actually look like. They're actually coded by synapses. Okay. Okay. And this is what Purkinje cells are. Purkinje cells are by far the one of the cooler looking neurons. As you've seen the sheer number of dendrites that are here and they're receiving information. Okay, the information coming in involves the opening of ion channels. Okay, you can have a excitatory postsynaptic potential. Okay, so these are synapses. Okay, on the other end of it, you can have a excitatory potential, which is depolarizing, which means it opens up sodium channels. Or you can have an inhibitory postsynaptic action potential, IPSP, and that is hyperpolarizing. That will be the opening of a potassium channel. Okay. 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 Let me go. So you can have IPSPs and EPSPs. Okay. A single EPSP usually does not generate enough action potential or does not generate enough of a graded summation to get an action potential. To do that, you need one of two things to happen. You need to add up enough positive, okay, to add up enough excitatory post synaptic potentials to get a summation. Okay, or that neuron has to fire enough times where it overlaps and you can have an additive effect. Okay, so this is temporal summation. So if a neuron fires and fires, it's too slow. But you have multiple firings, and that graded potential can add up over time and cross the threshold. And once you cross the threshold, bam, you get action potential. Okay. The other thing is you can get multiple things, so multiple neurons that are firing, okay, at the same time. Okay, so this is a cross space, and that will get you your action potential. So spatial summation, temporal summation. Okay. 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 Just like summations are all additive responses, you can also add negative things, so inhibition, and so you also have inhibition playing in. So you have to add up everything. It's just simple math, right? You add up all the pluses and all the minuses, and you get where you're at. Okay. So you get all the excitatory action potentials and all the inhibitory action potentials put together at the trigger zone or the axon hillock, and then you decide whether the neuron fires or not. Okay. And in this case, you can see it'll sum up enough to fire. In this case, you can see that you can affect the release downstream as well and cause these two neurons to release but not this one. You inhibit it at the very end as well. Okay, and these are both different ways of inhibiting neurons from activating downstream things. Okay. Okay. All right, we're almost done. Long-term potentiation alters the synapses. So one of the things that has to happen is that over time, these things have to change slowly. So it adapts. Okay. This is the key. So activity of synapses induces changes. So it either makes this thing more active or less. Like there's feedback from this side to that side. So it makes it more active or less active. And that's really how a lot of memory, like things actually acquire behaviors and stuff like that are acquired. Okay. And then disorders of synaptic transmission are responsible for a whole bunch of things, including depression. Depression is just the synaptic transmission of dopamine and serotonin not being right and stuff like that. So also Parkinson's disease, schizophrenia, a lot of things are actually controlled there. Okay. All right. I know this was long. I know we'll have a lot to discuss, but that's it for this chapter. So enjoy.